we're going. So, welcome to this episode of Unsolicited Wisdom. Today I'm going to be speaking to a guest, Fergus Kane. He is a member of my Year 12 class, and he too has been undertaking the Year 12 project. So today we're just going to go through some questions and see what his experience with the Year 12 project has been like. But first, I guess we should talk about some background information. So I guess the first question I should ask is, what is your Year 12 project?
Well, I'm running a bit of an experiment, I guess a science experiment, you'd say, using livestock grazing, specifically beef cattle, to as an alternative form of vegetation management in sort of public areas of sort of places where management practices have to be done to sort of keep at bay unwanted vegetation. So like if you think about on sides of roads or roundabouts or public parks and stuff like that, how they need to be routinely mowed or sprayed or brush cut, those sorts of things. So I'm doing an experiment using animals to manage that vegetation just as a more cost-effective, environmentally beneficial, and it also sort of opens up the scope for small-scale agriculture so that producers can have more access to land which would otherwise be fenced off, so that they can be more profitable in their own businesses, really. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a very interesting project. How did you sort of come across it? What was your background? I guess you've always sort of had something to do with that sort of industry.
Well, I've always lived in rural sort of areas, and I've got family and friends who are in the agricultural industry, all different, like from wheat cropping and wool all the way through to large scale beef production out in central Queensland, and then also up in the north to the tobacco industry around Cairns. My great grandfather was one of the sort of pioneers of the tobacco industry in the Cairns area way back in the day. But yeah, I've always lived in a rural area with an interest and passion for farming, so it's always been in my blood, I guess. But the idea for my project sort of came up when I was tossing up a few other ideas, but none of them really looked like the best thing to do. And then my boss, who I work for on just the weekends in between school, which he runs an organic and regenerative beef production enterprise with a few properties in the Mary Valley region, he offered the opportunity to use the Mary Valley Rattler rail corridor, so the area alongside the train track, which is the Mary Valley Rattler is an old steam train tourist attraction which runs through the Mary Valley out of Gympie, and one of his properties, the boundary of it runs along the train line. So we sort of came up with the idea of grazing his cows in there to sort of bring that idea to the Mary Valley Rattler sort of management team themselves as an alternative method of managing the vegetation along the railway, because it's 42 kilometres of railway track, which is quite expensive. So we're sort of, trying to offer them a solution to current forms of vegetation management, I guess,
So with your plan in the project, is it something you feel like can be sort of applied to a lot of places? Is it like a long-term sort of thing?
It could. Personally, myself, I'm not really looking to continue it, to be honest, just because I've got other plans for next year after leaving school. But it's definitely an idea that I think I've sort of reading online. I've seen other instances and trials of it being used all over the world, but definitely in Australia, I think there's a big opportunity for it, just because of the amount of open, empty land we have, like on the sides of our roads, obviously not in the suburbs, but just in the hinterland kind of thing. All of our roads have big sections of sort of unused land next to them, which is possible food for these animals, which then becomes food for humans. Really. So, yeah.
What have been like your findings? How are you finding it? Is it like being quite successful or a trend happening?
Well, it's a little bit hard to track because it's also state of the environment. As far as the plant, the state, the condition of the plant life in the area is very influenced by the weather. So this year we haven't had a very good season. We've had very limited rainfall, so obviously the plant abundance has decreased within the site that we're trialling the grazing. But I've done some surveys looking at the dry matter percentages within our trial site. So what I do is I take grass samples. Out of certain points that I've marked out, I take a grass sample and then weigh it and then dry it in the oven and then weigh it again, and then from that I'm able to get a percentage of what, I guess, usable feed is there. And I've been doing that. I did that as a baseline measurement, so like a control, I guess you'd say, and then also a midway point, and I'm about to do the final survey. So that'll tell us what changes have happened throughout the trial. But from just between the baseline and the midway survey, I saw roughly a 10% decline in plant volume. And yeah, I've sort of been talking about that with people, and they've sort of said, but the season hasn't been good, so obviously there'll be a decline in plant material. But actually the two survey spots which have not had any cattle impact at all, it's actually they're sort of the ones we keep the same. The dry matter there has actually increased. So the cows definitely have had an impact on the ecosystem itself. I know you can see the pictures of it. There's definitely a major difference in the way the place looks. Yeah,
I've seen the photos, and you can definitely see the sort of reduction and how they're having a difference. Yeah, it's always interesting when you look at how our interactions with the environment can change, and I guess it's way better than the impact of using, I guess, a cattle-based system to manage this sort of stuff. It's effective, but it also won't have as many long-term effects. Maybe with a pulling out, I guess that sort of area could recover naturally without long-term effects from pesticides, which I guess is the alternative.
Well, yeah. So in reality, our cows haven't actually spent a whole lot of time on the railway line. So they've been in there for 6 months now, I guess. Yeah. And within that 6 months, they've only really spent about 10, 12 days-ish.
Really?
If you add it all up, only really 12 days of constant grazing, which it's not a big, it's only 1.5 hectares, so that's 4 acres or so, which it's not a huge area, but there's you can see the definite impact that they're having, and the idea is too that the cows they do through their eating they do get rid of plant material, but also their dung that they drop sort of adds nutrient to the soil, which then again encourages plant growth. So we get a good cover of plant life across the soil, which maintains a healthy soil microbiome and also holds the soil together because it's quite a undulated sort of terrain. So we want the presence of plants is actually good because it keeps the ground solid and doesn't let it run down into the creek when it rains because of erosion. But it also is managed at a sustainable level because of the cows grazing. But yeah, you can see in other places where the management team has been using pesticides, like on steep banks and things, and there's no plant life there, and the soil's all just running downhill. Yeah.
You've come up with some really creative, and I guess creative is the best word I have for it. But you've designed sort of this carriage thing, which would allow the cattle to sort of stay there.
Yeah.
So you're kind of cutting out a little bit of middleman work as well, which is really sort of impressive.
Yeah. Well, the idea of that is because it's just a train track really. So there's parts of it where it's across creeks and things like that, but there's no access to permanent water, which is obviously something you need if you've got animals in there. So that was a big hurdle that we had to sort of try and get over. So the idea was either run like a pipe all the way along the train track, which we could tap into with troughs and things, but that's a fair bit of, well, it's expensive in the first place, but it's not like it can be taken out of the area quickly if needed to be, or if it becomes a problem or something like that. So I'm kind of using this little free CAD program, just like a real simple program. I've kind of come up with a bit of a contraption that it's like mounted on a flat decked railway carriage, and it's got some water tanks and some troughs and a roof over the top, which has got solar panels on top of it. So the idea is that it's sort of a self-propelled mobile watering station thing. So the solar panels can drive some electric motors that'll move the whole machine at a real slow pace, so that it's allowing the animals to get an even sort of spread over the landscape as they move. So then they can kind of hang around where the water is and just eat nearby, and they'll just slowly, constantly go over the whole thing and do a thorough job of managing the place.
It's really cool. You've been getting sort of a significant amount of attention on the project. How's that been, having this sort of I guess agricultural industry respond to you in that way with so much attention? Yeah, well,
at the very start of the year, there was this what would you call it? I guess a mentorship program that was getting advertised called the Graham Atkin Beef Connections Program, which I applied for that with this project, but unfortunately I didn't get a reply. I think I was a bit too young for sort of the...
Don't worry, no one can say sort of thing.
Yeah.
No one wants to take on
I didn't. I submitted a video and everything, but they didn't really reply. But then in September, for part of our community aspect component, we have to do something as part of our project which kind of benefits the wider community. So I presented the progress of my project at this field day called Agvention, which is held by Kandanga Farm Store in Kandanga in the Mary Valley, and it's an agricultural expo, I guess you'd call it, but it focuses only on regenerative and organic and sustainable, all those sort of words, that style of agriculture, which is the only one of its kind in Australia.
Yeah.
And so I presented my findings there to I think there was about 60 people watching, which is pretty, not big by any standards, but big for me. And it was really good. I got a good response from the audience, which was really, reassuring and heartwarming, and made me feel like I was sort of doing the right thing. And then, ABC was there, so I got interviewed by them and ended up on the radio yesterday.
Yeah.
I haven't actually heard it yet, but
I'll look, if I can find it, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, no, I've got the file there. I'm just trying to get it to work with Dropbox, but I'll get it figured out soon.
Yeah, it was really cool. Was that the one that we came out and saw?
Yeah.
It was really nice watching someone like yourself who's young, but coming up with new ideas that people who have been in the industry for a long time are starting to take notice of. It's really kind of an inspiration in that way.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because I think the average age of, I wouldn't call myself a farmer, but I'm in that industry. But the average age for farmers in Australia, I think, is 57 or 58 or something.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, important and those folks are only getting older. So it is important that, I'm not entirely sure how, because I've just been in it forever, but I think it is important that we try and somehow get some more young kids properly stuck into the agricultural industry, just because that's what feeds us all, I guess. We wouldn't do it without it.
Yeah, I think farmers deserve a lot more credit. They need more attention and more praise for what they do, because it's very Yeah, we'd be both without you kind of guys.
Yeah.
So I guess then turning more to sort of the school-based project because it is a school project.
Yeah.
Have you found it difficult managing this sort of project with your school life and trying to keep it, or do you feel like you've got it sort of under wraps?
Yes and no. Like I feel like at the very start I was envisioning to like sort of do more stuff with the project, like go a bit deeper into it than what I have so far. I would have liked, I think, to do a bit more, be a bit more hands-on, but yeah, other school commitments have gotten in the way, and I've been overseas and on holidays, and then been
life just doesn't stop, does it?
Yeah, no, just been doing other stuff. But at least the good thing is like it's on the cattle on my boss's property, so I'm not, because I'm at school during the week, I'm not really involved with how they get moved around, because they get moved around into new paddocks probably every 2 or 3 days. So it's kind of handy for me, because they just, in their rotation, they just get poked up in the railway paddock, and I get sent a message to say where they are, and I just let the operations manager know, and then that's kind of, it's a bit lazy of me, but that's really all I have to do with it, other than when I actually have to go out myself and do all my surveying. But yeah, I would have liked to do more, but it is what it is, I guess.
It's been really cool watching the way it sort of progressed. And so,
a lot of people's,
Is there particular struggles or any sort of event that sticks out a lot to you from the experience, from the journey through it?
There's lots of little things, like the first day we put the cows in there, they just got straight out and ended up on the road and in neighbours' properties and stuff, which was a bit of a headache, but
a bit less than ideal.
Yeah, it kind of just defeated the point of the whole thing. But yeah, no, it was a bit of setting up to do. Like, it was at the start of the year, so it was quite hot, and I had to spend quite a few days getting the fencing sort of rectified in the area. But it seems to be all under control now, touch wood. But there was one time where because usually when the cattle go into the area, I send a message to the operations manager of the Valley Rattler just to let him know that the cows are in there, or to double check that it's all right that they're in there, and he lets me know when the next train is going to come through, sort of thing. But there was one time where we put them in there. I think I was going to put them in there, but then I ended up being busy doing something else, so I didn't put them in there. And then my boss put them in, and it sort of just went over my head.
Yeah.
And I didn't send a message to the operations guy. And so they were in there, and then usually the train goes through on Sunday afternoon, and then there's no train again until sort of Tuesday lunchtime. So usually we've got Sunday afternoon and all of Monday to graze that trial area. But for some reason there was kind of out of the ordinary. There was a maintenance sort of train going through on Monday. I think first thing Monday morning, actually. So the cows were in there, and this train went through, but that I didn't know about. But luckily, thank God, there was the cows actually weren't on the track or anything, but the train did go through a little temporary like electric fence thing that was at the end of the paddock, which was quite a bit of a scare. Like, I thought I was going to get in big trouble, to be honest.
Yeah.
But luckily, it was sort of, I guess it was a communication issue on both parties' behalf. But yeah, other than that, I think, it's quite labour intensive. Like, the surveying I do, I have to go out, and I've got 10 survey sites of a 1 metre square area, so about 10 metres squared, all up, and I have to count each individual species of plants and their abundance one by one in the survey spots, and then record all the data by hand and all that sort of thing, which takes a fair bit. But
doing that when we did that in biology, when we started doing that, and figuring out if this one is the same as that one.
And lots of times I don't actually know what the plant's called, so I have to know plant A, or just make up a name and find it later.
X, Y, Z, or which one's eggs are.
The first time I did, I had that. I had about A through to H of plants. I didn't know the names, so I just gave them a letter, and then I had to go through a book after that and track their names down. But yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And what I guess, now I know you're not planning to do it sort of next year and stuff, but what do you have to finish before the end of the project? What's your sort of, where are you tapering towards to in the end of in the home run, I guess? Yeah,
well, I've still, as I said before, I've still got to do my final survey, so get like a, I don't know what the opposite of a baseline is, but like a finish line set of data for the trial site, and then from there I'll punch it all into Excel and make some graphs and things and analyze any change that's happened from the start to the finish within the landscape, and then from there I'll write a full-blown scientific report on like what, if it worked, did it work, what happened, why it happened, all that sort of thing. Yeah, and then I finished my design on the water carriage. That was sort of just another little component that I wanted to add, which is I'm pretty happy with it. It's not like a major thing anyway, so I think I'll leave that be. But yeah, the scientific report's the big thing I got to get knuckled down on.
Yeah, how many sort of words?
Not too crazy, probably a few thousand.
Yeah. Which isn't too crazy, but then you've got the rest of the stuff. Yeah. So it adds up.
Yeah. And it's, I think, when's the project body due? Week 6 or 5? Or, 6. Yeah, so we've only got like less than a month to do it, so. Yeah. I got to get going.
Yeah, I think most of us are feeling that's the way you got to get cracked.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. I think only 2 sets of 3 weeks left to go.
Just bring it on home. Almost ready for it all to be over. Yeah. But final question I want to ask you today before we wrap it up is throughout this whole process, what's like the biggest lesson or piece of advice you'd want to give someone to someone? I guess attempting something in agriculture or a long project, anything like that. What would you sort of? What's your lessons that you've learned that you'd like others to sort of know?
I think probably just to sort of learn to accept things a bit more if they sort of go against what you expected or what you expected of yourself, like especially in agriculture and farming, because you're either dealing with animals or you're dealing with the weather or you're dealing with both, which is 2 things completely out of your own hands. Like you can try and have a bit of a grip on it, but at the end of the day it's 2 completely separate sort of things going on. So if you're stuck in a mindset of where you got to be in control of everything, it's probably going to turn to shit pretty quick. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, just be open to rolling with the punches and being adaptable and flexible to sort of work with whatever goes on. Yeah, because like obviously times when cows are getting out or flat tires on your wheelbarrow when you're trying to set up survey points or whatever.
Technical difficulties. Make your head explode.
Time. Everything just adds time, and I think if you go into it expecting something to be easy peasy, no dramas, which it might be, but chances are it won't. So just got to be prepared for it and breathe when it does happen.
Well, thank you so much for doing this interview. It was a pleasure talking to you.
That's okay. Thank you.
No worries. And good luck with the run home.
Yep. You too.